Should you play Pseudo-Haunting? Did I beat Pseudo-Haunting? No. But wait, don't go. That's not my answer. My answer is yes. Sort of. You should play Pseudo-Haunting. I really recommend it. However, it's kinda pretty hard. It's a very challenging game, not only in the sense that the puzzles and combat are hard, it's that the game as a whole is challenging. It's disorienting, it's unsettling, the game is full of light sensitivity triggers, the sounds are loud, sudden, and creepy, and the story is pretty unclear to you. So, basically it's amazing, but it's not an easy play. It's scary. It's independent, it's avant-garde and difficult, it's tough love, it's atmospheric, it's a bit rough around the edges, but it's intelligent, and it's sincere, and it knows how to make you uncomfortable, and it knows how to tell a story. It's a game that's worth its price tag, and a game that deserves more of your attention. I didn't beat this game. I'm gonna level with you. I've been pretty busy, and I'm trying to make these YouTube videos, you know? And frankly, I'm a little worried that if I get stuck trying to beat this game, I'll lose out on further opportunities, or just lose inspiration and can this whole project. My goal with this game was to find out whether or not I can recommend you spend your time and money on it. And I can. For $8 American, and at least longer than 3 hours, you should buy and play Pseudo-Haunting. Hey, Future Lilybat here. The game is actually on sale for $2.79 at the time of recording. If you're watching this as soon as the video comes out, it'll be the Steam Summer Sale. I implore you to buy this game. It is under $3. That is a steal. Please go ahead and buy the game and play it for yourself. I'm begging you here. But if you need a little bit more convincing, let's get down to brass tacks. Alright, so let me get this one out of the way first. Upon opening the game, there is a screen very clearly telling you that if you are susceptible to triggers such as trypophobia, the word about self-exit I can't say on YouTube, parental trauma, or drug use, you should avoid playing this game. Also, I think this game might be a bit visually overwhelming for those with light sensitivity triggers or are just made sick by visual filters in games. That means that, honestly, it's going to be kind of hard to watch this video or play this game if you're one of those people. So just right now, I'm going to put a big light sensitivity warning on the screen right now, so please be careful from here on. Also, this is the kind of game that I feel is best enjoyed if you know as little as possible before playing it. Your character's name, where you are, why you're here, and even the gameplay elements and visuals are all told and shown to you in a very controlled manner. It would be really best if you let the game tell it to you in its own way instead of letting it be filtered through someone else. This is your last chance to experience this game in the best way you can. Alright, okay. Enough of me telling you to stop watching the video. I've put weeks of effort into at this point. Let's get to work. We've already established that you should play Pseudo-Haunting, but what is Pseudo-Haunting? It is a survival horror game well, let me just read right off the Steam page.
Fend off spirits by ripping your spirit off your body. Explore a glitched haunted house. Recall twisted memories. Get out alive.
The game is developed by ApeHardware, creator of their previous games Detuned, Me and My Eldritch Parasite, and Until It's Undone Unmastered, all of which are on Steam, as well as some free games on their itch page and Game Jolt, like Sick Monkeys and 6 Feet Behind. Okay, real quick, what is it called? Itch? Is it called itch.io? Is it called .io? Itch.io? I've heard so many people call it different things, and I don't know what I'm supposed to call it. Until coming across Pseudo-Haunting, I admittedly haven't heard of any of these games, but looking through all of their information, I can see this developer has a very distinct style. Everything looks like paper, cutouts of paper with squiggles or hand-drawn lines, and I'm not sure if they really do draw on paper and scan it, or if the textures are drawn digitally, but regardless, the games all look highly stylistic, and that gives them a good identity. I really like the use of color and even just the thumbnails on the website. It makes the games stand out from each other on the page. This is also the first game I see, at least on their Steam page, with the survival horror and old school tags. So if this is their first attempt at a throwback survival horror game, I think they've done a solid job. Go ahead and skip to the conclusion chapter in the progress bar or description, or the timestamp I'll show on screen if you want to avoid even the mildest of spoilers. Pseudo-Haunting has one of the most overall unique and stylistic visual styles I've seen from a 3D horror game, especially a throwback survival horror game. I can't tell you about another game that looks exactly like this, at least from a different developer. I will admit though, for my first play session, I did feel a little gross from all the visual effects, but I got used to it. I find the game world so fascinating. The floating, dreamlike rooms and hallways cooperate well with the story and help sell that astral, non-Euclidean world the game takes place in. I love the skyboxes you float around in. They're very well made and make me feel both cramped while also floating around in a truly endless void. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Yume Nikki's floating backgrounds, honestly. I enjoy our main character's design as well as this little ghost buddy that we have. It's creepy, but in a cute, endearing way. Like Lacey Games or Lonely House's Rental or some of the art done for Kikuo's music. This game feels less like a throwback to the visual style of Resident Evil and Silent Hill and such, and more like a throwback to the thin, lanky scene art styles of the 2000s, and I really, really like it. Again, I haven't seen a survival horror game that looks like this ever. I'd like to talk more about our main character, but I'm gonna wait until the story segment, because I have a feeling there's something more going on than it seems about their appearance. Some of the other characters we see later on look a little strange, but everyone is definitely unique, and I can identify who is who by just seeing the pose in their portrait and the immediate silhouette and colors. Unfortunately, some of the artistic decisions, such as the dithering or bloom and the large amount of bright shapes moving quickly and flashing lights, might make it hard for some to appreciate. However, making your art in a way that doesn't compromise your vision or goal might cause it to alienate possible viewers, but that's just how it is sometimes, you know? In exchange for that, we get to see some really cool visuals and experience something that you can't really find all that often. Like, for example, the enemies. Let's take a look at these guys. Jesus fucking Christ. Well, that was probably the coolest game over screen I've ever seen in a video game. But what the fuck was that thing? What is this? Huh? This is cool as fuck. I really, really like what they've got going on here. After getting a run back and seeing more of the enemies in this game, the impression that stuck with me the most was, this is bugs. This is a critter. This is a deep sea creature. This is the shit that the Subnautica protagonist has nightmares about. They also seem a bit angelic, but like in a Neon Genesis Evangelion sort of way. I love watching these enemies move, but I also hate it because it's creepy and gross and it makes my skin crawl. But I'm a freak, so that's my jam. I'm gonna be thinking about these monsters long after I'm finished with this game. Another few quick things. Whenever you come across interactables, you have a little white dot that suddenly pops in when you get close enough, and I really appreciated that, since it points out not only consumables, but key items, doors, switches, and notes. The notes are usually a stark white put against a black or some other dark color, or they're blue or red. I'm not sure if they're visible for colorblind players, but we'll get into that into the accessibility segment. Speaking of colors, I really do enjoy the ice-cold color palette used for most of this game. Everything feels unwelcome and uncomfortable, and it really makes me pity our character for having to endure this world. Though, you'll notice that when we use the major game mechanic that we'll discuss in the gameplay segment, the dithering fades and the color palette becomes much less gray, and we actually get to see some color, which I think is both cool visually and has some implications for the story. The warm colors we see are the orangish smears on the doors and the occasional gross yellow light of an incandescent bulb, and possibly some other ones that I'm forgetting in this moment. Even if it's a warm color, it still feels upsetting. See what I mean about challenging? My last video, a review for Crow Country, I described the game as safe and inviting, despite it being a horror game. I think that's because that game is meant to be a loving recreation of your nostalgia for a time that you wish you could go back to. Pseudo-Haunting, though, feels like it's a memory of a haunted past that wants to remind you that it still has its grip on you, even when you thought you finally let it go. From how far I've gotten, I don't know of much that would classify as traditional music in this game. There's a little bit, for sure, but there sure are a lot of sounds. The soundscape for this game is haunting. Moving throughout the game has some very evocative sounds, too. The subtle thumps as your character limps through the world, as well as one of the... Jesus! Every so often, complete silence will be interrupted by a seemingly random, awful noise, some more terrifying than others. It always scares me to death. Combat is usually signified by a combination of a visual effect and a sound cue, so for a split second, every time one of these noises play, I'm gripped with terror, expecting to have to fight for my life against the fucking weird red ghost things from that terrible Final Fantasy movie. But then when I realized the visual effect didn't happen, I realized that I'm safe. For now. It's so awesome. You never feel too comfortable in this game for long. Something, eventually, is going to remind you that you are in the pits of hell and there is no such thing as safety. The sound design in this game is but one factor in that feeling, and it is stellar. Most of the game has no background music, but occasionally, one of those random background noises will turn into a full-blown ambient noise track, and it fits incredibly well. The game has really good hit recognition. When you take damage, a very recognizable sound plays, as well as a little visual effect too. Your ghost can't take damage, but your body can. And when you're moving around far away from your body and you hear that nails on a chalkboard sound, you know exactly what's going on. However, some of the sounds get really loud later on. I had my volume all the way up for recording purposes, so maybe if you have yours set down to a more reasonable level, it won't be so bad. But for me, it kinda gave me tinnitus for a little bit, but that's my own fault. Also, I really enjoyed the subtle sounds, too. Like I said earlier, the footsteps are good, so are the sounds of the doors and picking up notes, but my favorite is the little gasp you hear when you go from ghost mode to body mode. To me, it's really evocative, even if it's so small and simple. It makes me wonder what it must feel like to
rip your spirit off your body,
as the Steam page says, and then have your soul rocket back to your body. I'm reading way too into it too, but it's like that feeling of falling in your dream, and the sudden jolt awake as you just hit the ground. And it might just be me, but I can't help but wonder if our main character enjoys that feeling of being a ghost, phasing through the world as they wish, being unseen, being nearly formless with only the vague shape of a girl, only for that pleasant feeling to be ripped away from them, right as they feel the impact of a free-fall ending on hard pavement, and that little gasp they make being the first sound out of their mouth as they realize their home is in their flesh. Or, I don't know, maybe I'm just imagining things. There is no voice acting in this game, but when characters speak, there's that kind of babble, like in Undertale or... Are you good, man? Anyway, this game's version of that text chirping babble is this. And I think it's really cool. It reminds me of Drakengard 1's OST, strangely enough. You know how there's all those like sudden, quick, jarring pauses in the music or just sudden cutoffs? It's really unsettling and gross, sure, but it's so good. That encapsulates this entire game's experience. It's unsettling, gross, and intimidating, but it is so very good. Okay, after God knows how long of making you listen to me yap, we're finally talking about the gameplay. For the most part, it's actually quite simple. I used a controller for this, and I'd probably recommend that over mouse and keyboard, so my explanations will be using a PS5 controller, as well as the modern controls setting. You use the left analog stick to maneuver around the world, interact and pick things up with X, access your menu with circle. There are save points that require a resource to use. There are no shops or other ways to acquire resources other than finding them, and there is no way to heal other than using items. Pretty standard survival horror fare. However, I did notice that items seem to spawn around you, even in areas you've already been to before, so I guess that's there to help keep you from soft locking or running out of stuff. However, I still seem to always be needing items, but I'm sure that's just because I suck. And as for the central mechanic of this game, you're able to
Rip your spirit off your body.
with R1 or L1. While in your ghost form, you move a lot faster. You can't open your menu, but instead you look straight down with circle, mostly for puzzle solving, and you can phase through all the walls. But you can't float up or down. You can only move along whatever elevation your body is at. So if you want to use your ghost to phase through a place that's low or high, you'll have to walk your body over to a spot that matches that elevation. I'm not sure if that's a specific decision, or something caused by a programming limitation that was just too much of a pain to try to work around, but it's fine. I don't really think it's a problem at all, and it just adds to the puzzle solving. Honestly, I would describe a lot of this game like that. I'm not sure if it's a decision, a limitation, or an oversight, but does it matter? Accident or intent, this game is a combination of factors that wouldn't be so great if any of these factors were different. As for the combat, it's also simple in concept, but capable of a pretty unique experience. As you saw earlier, my first encounter with these things didn't go all that well, but on a second try, I fared much better. You can only damage enemies while in your ghost form, and you do so simply by just running into them. It pushes them back a bit so you can keep them off your body. However, the closer you are to your body in your ghost form, the smaller your radius of damage is. If you look straight down while in ghost form, when you're close to your body, you can see this little squiggle underneath you. It kind of looks like a butterfly to me. This seems to be your range of damage, and you can see it shrink and grow when moving close or away from your body. This is so that you simply can't just sit in ghost form and idle right by your body and win all the combat. You'll have to move away from your body and push all the threats away from you and risk some damage. Speaking of damage, you have 2 health meters in this game, physical or psychic, though honestly I just found myself calling it HP or SP. I wasn't able to differentiate what every single attack type would do, but for the most part, when your body is hit, you lose HP, and when your ghost is in close proximity to enemies for a little bit too long, you slowly drain SP. Honestly, a lot of the combat in this game had me pretty laser focused on making sure I wasn't losing track of any of the enemies, so sometimes I feel like I would have a lot more lower SP than I did like a couple seconds ago, but honestly I think that just means that I didn't pay enough attention. So, while the combat's really simple, I find that it's incredibly difficult, but in a good way. You take a lot of damage, resources are scarce, and sometimes there's a lot of enemies, at least on the difficulty that I played. Your body moves rather slow, so if you're surrounded by enemies, the best way to handle them is to shove them out of the way with your ghost. Remember, you can't be too close to your body, but with a little bit of distance, you can run circles around yourself to shove everything off of you. Also, you'll have to pay attention to multiple enemies for most fights. While you're battling one monster, pushing it really far away, another one could be approaching your body, which could quickly give you a game over. But luckily, you can desummon your ghost at any point, and when you resummon again, you'll be right back at your body. See what I mean? It's simple, but it's so uniquely challenging. It's so evocative. It really feels like you're fighting for your life, but in a much different way than just shooting up everything around you, as much as I do like games like that. God, how horrifying it must be for such an alien method of survival to be the only thing keeping you alive. And later on, this game does not shy away from reminding you that your success with this strange method is the only thing keeping you alive. Things get pretty spicy as the game progresses. As we've established, your body moves really fucking slowly, so you're going to have to learn to switch between the two when needed. There are even some bullet hell type segments where you need to quickly move your body out of the way of something and then switch back to the ghost ASAP to do some other thing you need to keep track of. It's a little overwhelming, but I can't overstate how cool it is. God, as I was typing out this script, I was just remembering everything great about this game. I forgot all the times I felt scared or overwhelmed or frustrated. I just remember how fucking cool everything is. Oh. No, I remember. So, the puzzles in this game are good, great even, and they're very smart. Sometimes I'd get it instantly, sometimes I'd be stumped for like 10 minutes until I just get a random flash of insight and solve it. The developer knows how to make a good puzzle. But then, I got stuck. I got really, really stuck. I won't tell you the solution, but I'll just say that I was stuck in a looping series of rooms for an embarrassingly long time. Loop after loop after loop after loop, I wandered through the same rooms, hoping to find something new. And eventually, I just couldn't take it anymore. At that point, there were 2 reviews on the Steam page, both by people who seemed to claim that they really didn't have any issue beating the game. They didn't mention anything, they just were like, the game's good, I beat it, yay. And, I was glad, but I was filled with spite. There were 0 guides. There was nothing. I tried again and again and again after taking breaks. I stopped playing the game for like 2 or 3 days, and I came back to it, and I just couldn't figure it out. And I had the littlest kernel of an idea when I first got stuck, but I was like, no, that's a stupid, terrible idea. But the longer I was stuck, the longer I spent going on about my day at work or streaming or doing whatever else, I kept thinking about how stuck I was, and that kernel grew and grew and grew until I direct messaged the developer on Twitter and asked for help. God, as soon as I hit that enter button, shame washed over me. I can't believe I just asked the developer of a game how to beat their own game. I'm so fucking stupid. Jesus Christ, I'm no better than a fucking Kotaku game journalist. God, someone just put my pathetic Oh, they responded, and they're being cool about it. Okay, yeah, so I was worried for nothing. They were actually really kind and to the point, and I got unstuck with a pretty good, fair hint. The puzzle wasn't so bad at all. I just, frankly, wasn't paying attention to all the notes and hints they were giving me. They gave me just the lightest little push, and I was able to figure it out. Surely I won't get stuck that bad again. There are a few sections in the game that loop on itself and fill your inventory with key items, and usually when these happen, I kind of fumble my way through it eventually, figure out where to go and how to proceed, and then proceed forward. But I'll still have those leftover puzzle items from those rooms. Did I miss something? Am I gonna have to remember something about this later? Was this all just to make me feel weird and confused and lost? It surely worked, if that was the intent. It very much so worked. I truly don't know. And I won't for a while, until I get the courage to pick this game up again. If I did have to have one true, solid hang-up about this game, it would be that the progression feels a little bit confusing, even though I understand that's the point. But hey, remember what I said when I said that you shouldn't compromise your vision, even if it could possibly alienate some of your possible audience? I really did mean it. Sometimes you're going to have to decide whether or not you want to compromise your vision in order to appeal to a wider audience, or double down and stick with what you want to do, even if some dork-ass YouTuber finds it mildly frustrating. You'll just have to decide which one you care about more. I don't know. I'm just yapping at this point. All I'm saying is, everything I've talked about demonstrates to me that this developer is intelligent, and they know what they're capable of doing. Puzzles are not easy. When I realized the solution to a puzzle, every single time, I noticed that it was just right in front of me, and I didn't need to make any large leaps in logic to get the point, and it felt great. Nothing ever felt nonsensical or gratuitously cryptic. It just requires you to pay attention to everything that it's showing you. Regardless of any critiques I have, that shines through above all of them, and I wanted to make it known that I really, really like and appreciate it. To be quick and upfront, the main thing I wanted to talk about was the light sensitivity hazards. This game isn't as visually intense as some other games. I just think that the overall visual style of the game kind of toes the line between safe and unsafe. The game over screen, the dithering and blurriness, and how the bright enemies jitter around in gross ways, stuff like that. I did mention that I felt a little queasy and ill on my first play session, so I just couldn't help but feel like maybe this game warrants some more direct light sensitivity warnings, because I didn't see anything other than the content warning at the start, which is still really good and welcome, because the game's story covers some pretty dark subjects. I don't know, maybe I'm making a deal out of nothing, but I just think the game could do with a bit more of a clear light sensitivity warning when you launch it. Other than that, everything else is pretty standard. As for the actual video game itself, it's relatively simple, but difficult, like I've said a bunch already. There are a total of 7 difficulties. The 2 easier difficulties allow for unlimited saves and have overall lower enemy stats, and the easiest difficulty completely disables random encounters. My main playthrough was on normal, and I only ran around a little bit on the 2 easier difficulties, and it seems to be telling the truth, but I didn't really have the time to get very granular with it. I would imagine the game would remove all but the few difficult and involved fights that I remember when it's on its easiest difficulty. There are 2 control schemes, Modern and Tank. I personally went with Modern for a plethora of Steam controller issue nonsense that doesn't really matter for the review. Honestly, with how hard the game was, I'm kinda glad I went with that option, since it makes the combat a bit more manageable. Again, just like with my last video, I honestly don't know 100% how colorblind players will fare with this game. There's some color used with like interactables in the world, and like I said, with the doors, but I don't believe there's any puzzles or mechanics that require you to differentiate color. Interactables in the world usually will have, well, they always will have, a little white dot that appears when you get close to them, and any puzzles have hints that are usually given with like a dark on bright or a bright on dark. So I think colorblind players will be alright, but if you know more than I do, please feel free to correct me. Alright, so I've established that I consider everything past the introduction up until now as a minor spoiler, but I'd say that anything from here on out until the conclusion is going to be a major spoiler. Like I said, I haven't beaten the game, so I haven't seen anything past where I stopped, so it's not like I know the ending, but I am considering everything you can't learn from just looking at the Steam page to be a major spoiler. I'm going to talk about what I know of the story, my interpretations and predictions, and if you plan on experiencing this game for yourself, spoiler-free, I'd really hate to take away that speculation from you. So, final warning, if you haven't already, skip to this timestamp right here to jump to the conclusion. What is Pseudo-Haunting about? That's a question that took me a while to be able to answer confidently, but after giving it time and patience, you'll find that it's not so archaic when you have a few of the pieces in front of you. It is about an organization named Linger, who has tasked themselves with researching a phenomenon called haunted houses, and Willow, a terminal research subject of theirs who is trapped inside one such phenomenon. These haunted houses create their form from the memories of those in and around them, and become a broken maze of rooms, trapping those inside and draining them of their data, their memories, their self. As if that wasn't terrifying enough, there are entities that exist within a haunted house, called residents. There are different kinds, but the ones that play the role of the enemies we fight are called white residents, which attack anything inside a haunted house and consume its data. After the opening dialogue, we gain control of pallid, dying Willow. Willow is the 5th son to one Mr. Dandelion, the wealthy eccentric who has been personally funding Linger's research into the haunted house phenomenon. Willow suffers from a disease of which no doctors have been able to identify, only its symptoms. Degradation of vision, muscle atrophy, weakness, lethargy, just to name a few. By the order of his father, he has been brought to Linger, not to cure his illness, but to cure his unique ability. Willow is able to control what is called an early white resident, essentially a ghost. Willow's ghost can move separately from his body, and can break down the data, the memories of living things around it, until eventually killing them. It seems that there has been some sort of accident or tragedy involving this ghost, but there are no clear details given. Despite claiming to keep no memory of what his ghost does when he gives it control, he insists that this ghost is his own. This ghost bears no resemblance to Willow, however, and other people who observe it compare the appearance of this ghost to a girl, yet Willow claims specifically it just looks like a girl, but isn't really one. It seems that the key to dismantling haunted houses could lie in Willow's ability, so despite Mr. Dandelion's desperate desire to be rid of his child's ability, he is brought to the site where our story takes place. But something has gone wrong. The haunted house has spiraled out of control. Every member is gone, and the only one left to guide him is the disembodied voice of one of Linger's researchers, Dr. Lily. Hey, that's my name. Someone Willow describes as the only person who has been something close to nice to him. He has but one choice: use his ghost to survive and journey to the heart of the haunted house and destroy it. As we push deeper into the house, we are constantly reminded of Willow's fading memory, with dialogue at the bottom of the screen expressing confusion and dismay, in between cries for the end of pain and the wish for eternal sleep. Several notes you find demand that all employees leave notes of everything, or forgetting is inevitable. This also acts as an explanation for why you find notes of every little thing, it's cute, it's not required, but it's very, very welcome. However, this cute and welcome addition is just as prone to consumption as our memories are. We find many a note, half-eaten and barely legible, proving to us, showing us that this is serious. Your memories, not just the ones in your head, but the ones you record, are just food for this house, and it will consume it sooner or later. Everything I just told you, I pieced together over the course of about 3 hours of gameplay, and it was retold to you from my scribble notes and reviewing of footage. I promise you, if any of that seemed interesting to you, it is drip-fed to you in such a much more engaging and intelligent way than I could ever summarize for you. Sure, some of the dialogue is very on the nose. Within the first few minutes of the game, we hear our main character admit that Dr. Lily's predicament of being a formless consciousness seems like something he would enjoy. Or in the opening text of the game, where it clearly says that someone, most likely Willow, is scared of being alive, but scared of dying. There are a handful of other blunt moments like this, and yeah, it feels a bit too telling and not showing, but I can forgive that. Would I prefer it to be implemented a bit more discreetly? Yeah, well, sure, but it's fine, that's okay, because what it is saying is still interesting and engaging, at least to me. So I think that instead of dwelling so long on what could be better about it, I wanted to speak on what makes it so interesting and thought-provoking. I mean, do you know how hard it is to make an engaging story that gets the reader to ask questions and seek answers just because those answers are interesting enough to warrant searching? Especially in a story that isn't told completely chronologically. To feed us information out of order, to present information with no context, and only give us answers after the fact is difficult. I think this game can be a bit confusing and overwhelming, but not so much so that I can't follow it or don't understand it. It was just confusing enough to leave me bewildered for a moment, only to ground me again and help me continue forward over and over again. That is very difficult to pull off, and it's impressive when you see it executed as well as in this game. I enjoy how slowly you learn everything. It's not like the game gives you nothing to go off of. I mean, you learn about Linger in, like, the second room you enter, but it takes a while to learn exactly who Willow is, why we're here, what here is. But the best part is that the characters speak as if you already know why you're here. Because they do. We're only coming in after everything has started to kick off. This is called in media res, a term you probably see a bunch of video game story nerds use alongside diegetic or ludonarrative. I can excuse some of the more blunt thematic writing, because this game rarely tries to explain the plot to your face. Willow knows what Linger is, he knows what a haunted house is, what a white resident is, so there's no real reason to tell the player it out of context. This is where the notes come in. Anytime you gain clear knowledge of a past event, or just knowledge in general, it's either because it's relevant for the characters to talk about, or it's mentioned in a note that you find. To me, this is a great job of engaging the viewer by making them raise several questions on their own instead of directly prompting them to ask them. Then, slowly, over time, you answer their questions, but never in the order they were asked. Not only do I enjoy how you learn everything, I enjoy the things that you learn. I find the idea of a haunted house really fascinating. I love the term. I love that the term itself is intentionally misleading. A haunted house isn't a house, it's just the word for any place that matches the criteria. A haunted house could look like anything, be anywhere, and take the appearance of anything. It's just the data of a place, mashed together in a pile. I love our main character. I love learning new things about them. I really root for Willow and hope that they succeed and survive, even if I'm not really sure that's what's going to happen. I've already said too much, and I'm starting to get tired of how long the script is, so I'll just say that the story in this game is fantastic, at least from what I've seen. It's engaging and intelligent, if a little too direct and blunt with some of its character dialogue, yet its tone is solid and consistent, and its world building is gripping and amazingly demonstrated. Really quickly, I just wanted to touch upon a few of the other characters we see in the game. As far as I got, the only named characters with sprites that I met were Willow, Dr. Lily, and Willow's father, Mr. Dandelion. By far the most interesting character to me is Willow, but I think Dr. Lily and Mr. Dandelion are solid, if a bit blunt, at least from what I saw. There are a handful of moments where we are told how a character usually acts instead of shown. Some of it is fine, as it's in the form of notes where annoyed employees vent their frustrations about how annoying and self-centered their sponsor is, while there are some moments of an internal dialogue from Dr. Lily, seemingly explaining to the viewer that Mr. Dandelion is an evil, selfish prick. There's a pretty blunt line that I found kind of funny, honestly, where Mr. Dandelion just kind of tells Lily to her face that she's a sewer-slidal mess, which is for the better since mankind doesn't need her depressive genes. In response, Dr. Lily kind of blatantly tells us that she's always been a bit apathetic and just never really felt the need for friends. This is what I've been meaning about blunt dialogue, but enough negatives. What I do like about the characters is that they're all memorable and distinguishable. I mean, Dandelion looks a little strange, but I sure do remember him. They all have different color palettes, and all stand in their unique pose that gives them personality. It's good. I also enjoy the little bit of lighting you can see coming onto the characters. It gives them a special sort of depth that really adds to the immersion that I can't really describe. Even if the supporting characters are few, blunt sometimes, and a bit flat-seeming, they are more than well made enough to create a gripping story with characters that belong and who can support the world they're in. I am very, very intrigued by the story this game is telling. On a surface level, I love the idea this game takes place in. A malevolent place, wearing the skin of the memories of those around it as it folds in on itself, wholly intent to swallow everything inside. Every shift of its interior, gulping down whatever poor souls are trapped, bit by bit, as they wander and drip the memories out of the holes in their body in each step they take. But deeper, I can see glints of a story about identity, dysphoria, the fear of living, yet also fearing death, battling the disdain and pity from those around you, watching you struggle to simply get out of bed, to simply survive, in the barest sense of the word. Living, not because you want to live, not because you don't want to die, but because the pain of death scares you more than the pain of living. I want to talk about Willow now. There's this one line in particular that I found near the end of my attempt at this game. I know I've already said how blunt the dialogue can be, and technically we've already seen this alluded to at the very beginning of the game, but it had been a few weeks since I had seen the opening of the game, so this was more fresh to me when I came across it. Dr. Lily is frustrated that Willow seems apprehensive to do what needs to be done to save everyone's life, including his own. So, after a while, she asks him, plainly, "Do you want to die?" He stutters for a second, but he replies, "I'm fine with dying. It's just the process that scares me." And it... I mean, you never hear the quiet part said out loud that often, you know? I think this hits harder if you haven't been trying to condense this all into one single experience like I have. Regardless, even if it was blunt, even if I would have preferred some more discreet dialogue in other places, I think doing so wouldn't have resulted in this line being written. I think a lot of people who don't want to be alive, but live anyway, do so because the idea of dying is terrifying. I mean, obviously, right? I think anyone who feels like this knows it and understands exactly what I'm saying, but I don't remember the last time I heard it said so plainly, at least in a video game. You've probably noticed that I have refrained from gendering Willow up until the last section. I did this because when I first played and saw Willow after the opening credits, I couldn't really tell their gender right away, so Even if you're only left in the dark for just a short amount of time, I didn't want to take that small speculation away from anyone who might have played this game for themselves. I think that being unsure about our main character's gender, even for just a bit, leaves an important impression later that ties into the ideas that I'm trying to discuss here. This part of the video is starting to become less of a review and more of an analysis, I'm sorry, but I wanted to include it anyway, because I really want to discuss Willow. Let me drop the poetry for a bit and be blunt. I think living, even if, especially if, it's in the face of an inevitable death, even if it's terrifying, is strong. I also think he is much more than just a protagonist, a character to play as. I think he is used to explore many different themes, none of which are mutually exclusive. I don't think he is just one of these, nor do I think he is all of these at once. I only think that this character was just created in a way that allows for multiple different perspectives, feelings, and ideas to be applied and explored. When I think about Willow, I think about the infantilization of the sick and disabled. I think about how such people get treated, and how once you become sick enough, disabled enough, dying enough, you lose respect. You aren't treated like a person anymore. You're treated like something to be taken care of, to be pitied. Willow is the sick kid. He's an adult, he isn't a child anymore, but he's just the sick kid. He's just a child. When I think about Willow, I think about dysphoria. I think about the resignation you feel when you just accept that you can never have or be what you want to be. Who cares how the sick and dying child feels about their being, their comfort, their identity? On the surface, Willow's father just wants to destroy all haunted houses, because they delete memories. Other employees claim that the reason for this must be because he wants his legacy and contributions to be remembered through history. I haven't beaten the game yet, so I can only assume this is the case for now. Willow has a power that is incredibly similar to the denizens of a haunted house, so he wants to destroy that too. But seeing as there has been a mention of the gender and appearance of this ghost, and that Willow makes sure to specify it just looks like a girl but isn't one, it gives me a feeling I can't shake. With these things in mind, as a queer person, I can't help but think about a parent who despises the queerness of their child and wants to scrub it out. I'm not saying that's what the game is about and that's the secret plot of the whole story, but it's just something that the game makes me think about, and I felt it was important to discuss when talking about this game's story and characters. There's just one more thing I wanted to say. Sometimes, it might feel like the end is fast approaching. In Willow's case, it most likely is. He's dying. His sickness might claim him. Who knows how long he has left to live. Regardless if someone is truly faced with the end of their life, or if there's an inexplicable encroaching of dread, living matters. Your identity, your expression, your desires, and your fears matter. It might not feel like it does. It might feel like it would just be best to resign to whatever happens and bite your tongue so you don't cause any friction, but I promise it matters. Even in the face of tragedy, the presence of love matters. When something ends, no matter how tragically or regrettably or unfairly it ended, the fact that love was there mattered. When reviewing something, I think it's important to consider what you would do differently were this your project. I think it's not only a good way to ponder over what could be flat out improved, but also why you would change the things that you wanted to. Why should it be changed? What else would be affected if you changed something? This can help you understand all the components of something, be it a video game or a song or even things outside of media or entertainment. I say this because I can't think of anything I could change in Pseudo-Haunting without hindering the overall experience of this game. I would prefer if the game were easier on the eyes, prefer if the dialogue were more nuanced and less blunt, prefer if the game progression were more uniform and consistent, but that'd make the experience less artistically genuine, in my opinion. If you take out or change one of the aspects of this game, I don't think it would be as good as it is now. For example, I sometimes would get pretty bored or annoyed having to slowly move Willow from one side of a long room to another. What would happen if we changed that? If Willow moved faster, then what about the fact that Willow is so weak and sick that he needs a walker to even shuffle as slowly as he does? He could be put in a wheelchair, which, sure, that would work for tank controls, but then he can't go upstairs, can't cross certain terrain, and then the modded controls would look really weird. If we give him some sort of teleport or movement ability, then that doesn't really mesh well with the plot of the game and its tone. This game already tries to tie as much of its story to its gameplay as possible, so that'd just be a bust. If we made the levels smaller, then we wouldn't be exposed to those long stretches of silence as we shakily progress further into this non-Euclidean hell. We are being put in Willow's shoes. We are living as him right now, getting a taste of what it's like to live like him. To change that for the sake of better gameplay ruins something that I believe to be integral to the experience this game is providing. So, yes, there are things I would like to be different on the surface, but when I really start to think about what we would give up in exchange, I can't really say there's anything I would change. Honestly, I believe this game, even without me having beaten it, is complete. Up to the point where I stopped, I don't think anything about this game should be changed or adjusted. I think it's exactly what it needs to be. In my opinion, I think that's an incredibly important thing for a game to be. After all the time I've spent talking about this game, what else can I really say? I really, really, really recommend this game. I wish I had beaten it, but there's just so much I want to get done, and I've also been pretty busy with life in general. Even writing this script took so much longer than my last video. Who knows how much longer this would have taken if I tried to keep going, or maybe I wouldn't have even finished it at all. I figured it would just be best to finish something, even if it's not exactly what I set out to do, as opposed to risking never finishing it at all. I cannot remember the last time I played a game that felt so unique, while also being heavily inspired by the aesthetics and game designs of a past era. This game and its developer deserve so much more of your time and support. I hope that some of you really did skip ahead to this point and choose to play the game for yourself. For those that didn't, I forgive you, and I hope that after watching all this, you truly understand at least a little bit what makes this game so special and what's made me ramble about it for so long. Regardless if you played this for yourself or not, please show it some support. Talk about it with your friends or on Twitter or wherever you go. I only found this game because some random person on Twitter retweeted it, and I cannot find that tweet again, and I don't remember who retweeted it. For games like this, word of mouth is so incredibly important. When you have games made by normal people like you and me, not industry giants with decades of old money, snowballed reputation, and the like, it's the same normal people like you and me that makes or breaks the success of these small projects. I'm so excited to see where ApeHardware goes from here. I also hope that I can make the time to play through some of their earlier games, and maybe after that, they'll come out with another project that I can only hope is as engaging, intelligent, and interesting as Pseudo-Haunting. I plan on coming back to this game soon, but I hope that some of you who watch this game check this out for yourself. Trust me, pick it up and play it for yourself. Prove that you're better at games than the dumb YouTube reviewer. Beat this game and parade it in front of me. Nothing would make me happier. So, yeah, that's my review of Pseudo-Haunting. This game is a true work of art. It might be hard to digest, and it might be a little difficult in more ways than one, but it's genuine and intelligent. I'm baffled that I had so much to say about this game, and I hope that this project makes you think and feel just as much as it made me. I'm so glad I found this game, because there's nothing else quite like it. Thank you all for watching this far, and thank you to ApeHardware for taking the time to create. If this game is any indication, you are truly an artist, and I imagine the rest of your work is just as intelligent. Thank you for being a creator, and I hope I'm just one of the many voices that will praise your efforts in the times to come. This video is finally done. I can't believe how long it took me to get this video out. It's a little bit shameful. I feel a little bit ashamed, I'm not going to lie. So if I can be frank with you right now, I don't think I could have gotten this far if it weren't for my friends. I'm gonna shout them out in the description, but like just Proxy Askew for one was like, that woman is like my mentor in a lot of different ways. But this specifically is she was a rock, right? She was cool. She helped me a lot. She gave me a lot of encouragement and inspiration. and I don't think I could have done it without her. I don't think I could have done it without Synthetic Peach. She is like a cheerleader. She's my hype girl, and it was very nice getting that sort of high energy every time I mentioned the video. Whenever she knew I was working on it, that was good. And then Goodnight Snack, who is their content brain is massive, right? They have content brain, and they let me sup of their knowledge a little bit, and it was very appreciated. That's like, they didn't make the thumbnail for me, but they very much so gave me a really strong like example, and then I extrapolated off of that. And I feel like I can tell you that I think this thumbnail is much better than the Crow Country one, because that one was just art I paid someone to make, and then I just slapped some text on it, and that was it. So this time, I think, you know, it's not perfect. You know, I'm not. It's no. I don't know who makes good thumbnails. Fucking Markiplier. He just puts his face on it because he's like, you know, he's God. Markiplier is Jesus Christ, so he could succeed by putting his face on it. I don't know. I haven't paid attention to his thumbnails in years. I think he probably did better thumbnails, you know, back before he became Jesus, back before he usurped God on his throne, you know? I don't know what this is. I don't know if this is going to make it into the final video. None of this... What am I talking about? None of this is anything. Thank you all so much for being patient with me. I know that the initial surge that I got from Crow Country is not going to be the same here. I know that this video is not going to be received as well as that one, and that's okay. Crow Country had a lot of hype behind it, so many people were so excited for it. And then Pseudo-Haunting is very much so the hidden, like a really good survival horror game, the really good hidden Steam gem that I'm trying to show to the world. So it's not going to have hype behind it, so it's not going to be received as well, and I already know this, and that I'm okay with that. What would make me the happiest with this video is if I saw the user reviews jump up, like maybe to double digits, maybe get to like 20. I would love, right? It would stoke my ego so much to know that my video caused the game to get enough positive reviews that you actually were able to see mostly positive, very positive, overwhelmingly positive even. You know, that would, overwhelmingly maybe a little bit too, we might be pushing it up a little too far there, but like very positive, I think would be, if it was me releasing this video and like in the next couple weeks I saw that if you look on the store page for Pseudo-Haunting and it actually showed its like very positive score, as opposed to it just saying it has 3 reviews, that would make me very happy. Whether or not that's my goal, I don't know. My goal was just to finish this thing. That was my goal, and I have done it. So my goal is done. I've achieved my quest. But you know, the other thing I mentioned would also be nice too. But yeah, I just wanted to say thanks. This was a journey. I learned a lot about making videos. I learned a lot about this, and I think that whenever I make my next video, I will do a lot better. I'm gonna tone it down. I'm not gonna do a video this long. I refuse to do a video this long. I'm not going to do it unless I get help. But I don't have the money to hire an editor, so that's probably not what I'm gonna do. I don't really. I could make more videos about ApeHardware's previous games. Some of them are pretty short. I could probably do very short videos about their earlier games. I could maybe do videos that focus on a topic and not just a review of a game. I've watched a lot of Fear and Hunger videos, but I was thinking specifically talking about the queer writing in Fear and Hunger 2 Termina, or just Fear and Hunger in general, but it's more prominent, I think, in Fear and Hunger 2 with the inclusion of a trans character. So, like, I don't know if anyone else has made a video talking in length about, like, the queerness in Fear and Hunger. I wouldn't mind being able to ask the creator a few questions. You know, a little bit of a text interview in DMs. You know, I wouldn't mind a little bit of that. But that's something I've been kicking around, is either like going forward with more ApeHardware videos, or talking about, you know, queer writing in games. Fear and Hunger would be the first one that I could think of. That sounds pretty cool. But whatever I decide to do next, I hope you all support me and say nice things to me. Subscribe to me. Follow me on Twitch. Follow me on Twitter. And I don't know. I got a little sappy and a little dire earlier in the video, but I did mean what I said when I said that the presence of love matters, even in tragedy. And I don't know if that's a message the developer intended, but it's a message that I received. So I wanted to extend that message out. And, you know, even if things end unfairly, the fact that love was there mattered. And that's really important. So, tell that to someone else. You know, move it forward. And you should also give me money. Okay, thanks, bye.